I would just like to also advocate for self-care time.
I had that. Wallow in
Did you?
self-pity. Give yourself time for
Jazzercise?
This is
Hola.
the bookends, BLTs.
BLT.
So yeah,
the
Yes, I've been waiting for the sequel.
Our book was about how to lose the time war, but what if you want to know how to win the time war? I thought that this was a helpful presentation I could put together. And by winning the time war, I mean getting good at time management. So our presentation is on tips and tricks for time management. So introduction, the average person has 24 hours in a day. 98% of us will die at some point in our life. That equates to 1,440 minutes or over 86,000 seconds. So there's a lot of time in the day. And time management is basically the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between different tasks and activities so you can get more done in the same amount of time. So benefits are you're more efficient and productive. You might have less stress because of that. You increase your professional reputation and just gives you more time to do things you want to do. So what are some techniques for good time management? So the first one, if you really like matrices, you'll be into this one. This is the Eisenhower Matrix, which you divide your tasks between whether it's important or not important, and also urgent or not urgent. And you prioritize them based on important and urgent goes first, then important and non-urgent. And then you're supposed to delegate urgent and non-important and delete not urgent and not important. And I just really appreciated the examples that are in here because I guess you're going to delegate your son's homework to someone else. In the flower bed. And basically, you're just going to tell your partner to do all these other things, make the dinner for the family.
That's what
the
the help is
son's
for.
homework is not important. It doesn't matter about how your son does in school.
He should be able to do his own homework.
Yeah, so you just delegate it right back to your son, I guess. So that's one time management trick. This one, can you guys guess which fruit has inspired a time management technique? Does anyone know?
Grapes. I don't know.
Anyone else
No,
have guess?
yeah, probably grape.
Onion? There's
Tomato.
wait, A, B, C, or D, Michael?
I thought maybe there were like layers involved, but
That could be
maybe
cool.
it's the banana. Maybe you're supposed to just peel it, like peel back the time, like one little bit at a time.
Okay,
Tomatoes have
so
like ripeness. I think it's tomato.
That's
Right, you have to wait for the right time to eat your banana.
it is tomato. So there is this technique called the Pomodoro Technique, which is Italian for tomato, I think. And basically, this is good if you like games or if you have trouble focusing and you split up your time into specific intervals. So you have 25-minute intervals where you're focused, and then you give yourself a 5-minute break at the end of that. And it's called the Pomodoro Technique because the person who invented it or started it basically had a tomato timer. Like it was a little tomato looking timer. And that's why it's called the Pomodoro Technique.
Only 5-minute break.
Tomato.
This is a slave driving technique. 20 focus 5-minute breaks all day. My God.
Well, I think grape was also correct because are these grape tomatoes or?
These are on the vine tomatoes. Okay, so the next technique I have, if you like, if you're good at working under pressure, this is also if you like games, but maybe like darker games than the Pomodoro technique. Essentially, this is Parkinson's Law, and Parkinson said, the quote from him is, work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Basically, the amount of time you give yourself to complete a task, that's how long it will take. So you can essentially like saw yourself, quote unquote, and create games for yourself to make yourself finish things ahead of time. So this could be like you could trick yourself into the wrong due date. So set a due date like a week earlier or a day earlier or whatever. Literally set everything in your calendar to that day. So you're freaking out that day and you get it done ahead of time. Another technique that they suggested, which I thought was interesting, was work without a computer charger so that when it dies, you're done. So you got to make sure that you complete your work in the time it takes your computer to die.
I do this actually. I like that technique.
Really?
Yeah, I
I've
do.
never
I do
done
it with,
this.
yeah, it's kind of fun. Except the computer batteries lives are getting longer and longer, and it's real problem.
You could also set timers. You have to be similar to the Pomodoro technique. You could compete with others. There's a lot of different things. You can make this into different games. If you really love to be organized, there's of course to-do lists and planners. I don't know if you remember all the rage in the early 2010s were these Lily planners, yearly planners. So I had one of those in college. That was the picture I had there. And they had like really fun little stickers and things in them. Another technique that I had used in college was this note card weekly technique, where you have on one side of the note card are all the tasks and the other side are different events. So if I had a badminton time with Katie scheduled, or we had a Zumba class, or any other extracurricular activities, they'd be on one side of the note card, and then all my homework would be on another, which is really easy. You could just carry the note card around and you do it weekly. Microsoft tasks, Clayton knows a lot more about this. I have tried to do this. There's like tasks that you can assign yourself in your email system, and you can put timers on them and all kinds of things. I've just had a hard time keeping up with it. I just haven't created the habit, basically, but Clayton knows a lot about it, and he's had like whole courses on it or something. So
I have abandoned this technique. See, what happens is eventually you get too many tasks and it just starts stressing you out. So I've just gone back to like a sticky note that I put 3 bullet points on every day. All this fancy stuff's too much for me. Although I do like Microsoft Task. I do like little task boards where you move stuff around from like to do to done to never gonna do it. And I like those.
I need a never gonna do it column. It's very realistic. I need that in my life.
That's your son's homework. Like, I'm never gonna do it.
Never gonna do it. Sorry, Jimmy.
A really simple way is also just to have a notebook, either digital or physical. This is what I've done since working after college, basically, just having notebooks with different sections. So you have like to-do lists in certain sections and meeting minutes in another. Now I do that digitally with OneNote, but it's all the same. So these are techniques if you love to be organized and create lists. Another technique, if you're an accountant, you could do a time audit. And this could be either retrospectively, so you literally audit your time, or you could try to block out the day ahead of time and see and check against it and see how you've done. So this was my day yesterday. I wanted to just give an example.
An hour to wallow in
this is pretty accurate. Yeah.
This was your schedule from the other day.
When you solved world hunger, did you tell anyone about it?
No, you tell no one.
I don't see. Yeah, there's no time made to actually tell anyone. So yeah, that's true.
Dinner with me. I can't cancel it again.
Glad Katie gets it. Okay, and finally, the last technique, if you are very paranoid and you think the government is watching you and you want absolutely no record, written or digital, of your tasks, you can tie a string to your finger. This works well if you have a limited number of tasks. Otherwise, it's like you've got a bunch of ribbons you're carrying around all day, which gets really annoying, which may help you finish your tasks, I suppose. But this could be a very distracting technique if you have a lot on your plate, basically.
Question. When you do the string technique, do you have to tie knots in Morse code to actually indicate which task you're working on?
Well, the government could find that still and read Morse code. So I would suggest no. It's literally just all got to be in your head.
I used to do this in middle school, and I would constantly be like, why did I tie the string around so it's got some fault.
I've never even heard of this. This seems like something from the 1800s or something. Like
I think it is like an old technique. I'll also set timers sometimes on my phone, and then it goes off and I'm like, I have no idea what this timer was for. So my final slide is just what other techniques do you guys use to win the time war? I mentioned some of the ones that I use, but I don't know if you guys had used any of these others that were in the presentation.
I would just like to also advocate for self-care time.
I had that. Wallow in self-pity. Give yourself time for
jazzercise.
Jazzercise. Exactly.
It was included in the time audit. Sometimes I like
dinner with myself.
Sometimes I like to adopt a nihilistic attitude towards life and remind myself that nothing matters, and that really helps you deprioritize some tasks.
Yeah, Katie doesn't even believe in time, so that's how she gets around it.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to win or lose. Just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually do exactly what Clayton does. I just do like a note card every day and then throw it away with like whatever things I need to do. That's always seemed to work.
Otherwise, it just keeps getting bigger and it's stressful.
You know what's crazy is I do the opposite. I make this huge to-do list and I repeat it every day. So if I don't do something the day before, it goes on the to-do list for the next day. And the more I have to rewrite it, the more frustrated I get. The more likely I'm gonna do it that day. I'm like, I'm not going another day without sending this email, so fuck it, I'm writing the email right now.
Yeah, I get pissed, but then I do the opposite. I'm like, haha, I'm never gonna do you.
But I also put really easy stuff. Like I'll put like, wake up, brush teeth.
You have to have a couple wins in there.
Yeah, you gotta check things off.
Start with a couple wins.
I think the whole like work while your computer has charge is hilarious, because if I was at work and I was just like, well, my computer's dead, that's all I'm gonna do for the day, they'd be like, no, you have to keep going until 5.
Well, I don't do it at work. It doesn't work when you're doing it at work.
Well, it's for specific tasks. Yeah.
If I'm going to work on something in the evening, I just work until the computer is about to die, and then I stop. And it just kind of puts a boundary on it.
Sometimes I do that out of necessity because I can't find the charger.
I would add a slight amendment to the letting your computer charge down to 0 all the time. That will destroy your computer's battery life over time if you're constantly letting it like drop down really low.
Michael swooping in with the pragmatic advice. Appreciate it.
I mean, unless 2 years down the line, you only want your computer to work for like an hour and a half so that you can.
Or after your computer just is completely dead and doesn't work anymore, you just don't do anything. You just stop whatever you're working on.
Yeah, got it to boot today. Hey, let's check.
My computer only lasts 5 minutes, so done with my stuff for today.
That was a good one, Christine.
Clayton helped me with that one, with the topic.
That was good. That was some good info, like actual good academic time management systems.
I really like the Eisenhower Matrix. I don't think I've heard that before. I might actually.
It's super useful, actually. It's super useful.
I knew Katie would like the Matrices one. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Anything else?
Bye.
Bye.
Come back,
follow us.
Yeah, come watch our BTLs and plot discussions and book summaries.
All the things.